Hello and welcome to Supt Scoop. I am your host and the superintendent of the Mount Vernon City School District, Dr. Kenneth Hamilton. This episode is one of my favorite. We do this episode every year where at the end of the school year we bring on our two student leaders from each of our high schools who have earned the prestigious title as Valedictorian and Salutatorian of their graduating class. Joining me today are our two students from Mount Vernon High School, Victoria Gomez-Small and Messiah Brown, our two leading students here at Mount Vernon High School. During this episode, we will talk to them about their experiences in the district, what their future plans are, and what opportunities may exist from a student perspective for us to be able to improve the quality of programs and services that are available to our students in order to get them ready for a competitive college experience. So, Victoria and Messiah, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Victoria, why don't we just start with you? So, what lies ahead for you after graduation?
Well, I'm going to Northeastern University in Boston, and I'm going to be studying computer engineering and computer science. I'm doing a combined major.
Awesome. And so how long have you been in Mount Vernon and our public school system?
I've been here since elementary school. And then for a brief time, I went to a Catholic school in Pelham, but then I came back and I went to middle school, went to Longfellow, which is now Benjamin Turner.
Okay. And what has your experiences been like in Mount Vernon from your elementary through your high school learning experiences?
My experience in Mount Vernon has been great, actually. Yeah, I went to Catholic school in Pelham, but the education actually wasn't much different, so that's why we ended up coming back, because it was expensive going to the Catholic school when it wasn't really that much of a benefit. So yeah.
You know, it's interesting that you should say that. I want to talk about that a little bit because I had a conversation with a parent very recently, actually, and she kind of made the same observation. She had taken her youngster, actually had two kids that she had taken out of school and put them in private school, and came back actually saying the same thing, that she found that there weren't as many opportunities for programs and services for youngsters in the private school. Did you find that in your experience?
Yes, and also I wouldn't have taken the Regents in 8th grade like I did at Benjamin Turner. I took the Living Environment and Algebra 1 Regents in 8th grade, but
Wow.
that wasn't offered at the Catholic school that I went to.
That's very interesting. So Messiah, talk about your experience. So where are you going to be going after graduation?
After graduation, I'm going to be attending Mercy College in Dobbs Ferry.
I'm actually an adjunct for Mercy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I teach in the graduate program. But I'll be waiting for you. I'm sure you'll be going there. And what are you going to major in?
I have a lot of interests, so I'm going to go in undecided for now.
Okay, that's not at all unusual, by the way. I don't know if you know that, but it's not uncommon at all for students to begin their college experience undecided until they get their ideas and interests aligned with their long-term career objectives. How long have you been in Mount Vernon School District?
For elementary, I used to go to a school in the Bronx, but then I moved to Mount Vernon, and I've been here since then.
Okay, and what has your experience been like as a Mount Vernon student?
Well, I'm very proud to be a Knight. I've had a really great experience here, and I've had amazing teachers.
That's really good to hear. I always enjoy talking to students because it gives me a different perspective. As you know, I have the student advisory group where I meet with students once a month just to hear their experiences and opportunities that I may be able to capture as a superintendent that could improve education for all of our students. So Victoria, let me ask you, what do you think has been perhaps one of your most rewarding experiences as a student in Mount Vernon that allowed you the opportunity to be in the top performer in your graduating class?
I think the different programs that Mount Vernon has, and such as the NSSA program in Mount Vernon, I'm a part of that, and I have been a part of it since I think it was the summer of 7th grade or 8th grade. And in that program, we learned about science and math and about African American history. And it just prepares you for the next grade. And they teach subjects that you will probably be taking the next year. And I think that was a really good experience. And we also did coding, and that experience that I got with coding is what helped me decide that I would like to do something like that.
That's very good. I'm glad to hear that. We also have tried to really ramp up our course offerings, particularly in the last 4 years. Messiah, have you noticed a difference, say, in the last 3 or 4 years in terms of course offerings or the amount of rigor that's provided in your educational programs?
I'm not sure. I know that now that I'm leaving, they are offering this this baccalaureate program.
Yeah, the baccalaureate.
It sucks that I don't get to take it, but Mount Vernon High School is offering a lot of new stuff, and we have a lot of AP classes, etc.
That's very good to hear. So we're also very interested in making sure that kids leave here with what they need in their toolkit to be successful in college. So a lot of students graduate all across America, and they end up having to take remedial courses just to get to the point where they can take regular college courses. And unfortunately, parents are paying for those courses that don't necessarily count towards your graduation requirements for college. So we've been trying to make sure that when students get into college, they go in with the tools that they need to be successful and not have to take those courses. Do you feel that you're ready for that college experience in terms of having the readiness for those advanced level kinds of courses you'll have in college, as opposed to taking those courses that just prepare you for the college courses? Victoria?
I think that I will be ready. I won't have to take any remedial courses.
That's awesome.
Because this year I was taking AP Calculus, and I really enjoyed the class. I learned a lot about calculus in that class. And I do want to take Calculus 1 when I'm in college, but I think taking AP Calculus will make that class so much easier for me because of all the topics we learned.
Very good. What about you, Messiah?
Please repeat your question.
In terms of your readiness and the coursework that you've taken, making certain that coursework has prepared you for college level courses as opposed to the remedial courses as prerequisites.
I think it has, kind of. And, well, based on my math scores, I guess it kind of proves that it has. Actually, for Mercy College, I didn't have to take a placement test, and I was actually placed in a math higher due to my scores. So I guess that's a testimony to.
I think that most certainly is. So, talk more about your intended major. So you talked about how coding helped you to decide to do that. What advice would you give to other students, particularly young women who have not traditionally been well represented in that field? What advice would you give to them?
I would tell them to go online or go to your counselors and ask what are some coding programs that I can get involved in, because that would be very helpful in them experiencing the world of coding and seeing all the different things you can do, such as making websites and apps and games if you want to. So, yeah.
Very good. Messiah, Mount Vernon has had a bad reputation. I think it's starting to change, though, in all fairness. I think the reputation of our school and our community is starting to change for the better in terms of people having a different perspective about who we are and what we represent. And students like you who serve as ambassadors, who represent our district with such dignity and such poise, helps us to create that reputation. Do you find that when you talk to students or interact with students outside of Mount Vernon, do they have a perception about our students from Mount Vernon, and has that perception changed over the years?
At actually at one of the programs that I was at, that me and Victoria attended, called Yes I Can, that prepares you for your SATs. It's kind of interesting that we were at this kind of ceremony, and at the ceremony they were talking about a lot of the stuff that Mount Vernon High School has. And these kids were from all over. They were from Connecticut, Scarsdale, just everywhere. And then when they were hearing like the NINSA program, the M3 squared program, which is like a mathematical camp, they were saying, wow, Mount Vernon has so much stuff. I wish I went there. So I haven't heard anything bad.
Well, that's good. I'm very glad to hear that.
And you can just hear it in the
positive.
audience. They were all like, oh my gosh, Mount Vernon High School.
That's very good to hear. Now, what about opportunities for improvement? So when you look back, Victoria, what would you say as the superintendent, Dr. Hamilton, you should work on this to make it a better Mount Vernon?
Well, I would say the course selection, but that's something that's being improved upon. And I would say also the interior of Mount Vernon High School. I think it can help if it was just looked a little nicer, especially the bathrooms. There's, problems in there.
Very good. Messiah, what about you? What would you say I should have on my radar as an opportunity for improvement?
I guess to build on what Victoria was saying, definitely the bathrooms.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be nice if like when I stepped into the bathroom, I was coming into a really nice environment, which it's really not. Also, maybe more like more variety of classes, because my older sister, she went to Mount Vernon High School, and when she was here, she told me they had things like bowling and archery, and my jaw like literally dropped when she said this. I was thinking, we don't have this, and I was thinking maybe like more diversity of classes.
I'll definitely keep that on my radar. One of the other things that I really want to encourage students to do is to always give back. You know, there is it's this tremendous sense of pride in Mount Vernon. When you talk to folks who have been in our district or graduated and they still live here, they take great pride in saying, I'm the class of 1990, or I was in the class of 2000. And so giving back is really important. Is that something that you plan to do, and if so, how? Messiah, why don't you start us off with that?
Well, in this group that I'm in called the National Honor Society, there's always this event every year where we have, what's it called? When people come, Career Day. We have to ambassador people for Career Day. And while I was touring around, one man, he said to me, so the next time, are you gonna come back and talk to these kids and tell them things and give them advice? And I guess that's one way that I'd want to, like, I definitely want to come back for Career Day and help to inspire the children of Mount Vernon High School.
I'm very glad to hear that. What about you, Victoria?
Yes, I definitely will come back, and I definitely want to help Mount Vernon High School. And I know one of the things I want to do is during the summer, there's like, I heard there's an AVID program where they're going to be tutoring kids and helping them prepare for college, and I definitely want to help out with that. And also come back to the school and share my experience of what college is like and give them tips on how to prepare for college and just what to expect.
Very good. Well, ladies, I can't thank you enough for being here. Before we close, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about your GPA and what clubs and activities you participated in that helped your college application process. Victoria?
My GPA is a 98.5, and then there's another number after that, but I forgot. And some of the activities that I've participated in, I think have benefited me, is definitely the NSSA program, the Yes I Can program, the M3C program, and what are they? I'm part of the National Honor Society. Okay,
very good. Messiah, what about you? Your GPA or your grade point average and clubs and activities that you participated in?
I think my GPA is like 96.68 or 86, something like that. I kind of forgot. But in Mount Vernon High School, I've been part of a lot of clubs, and they've really helped me. For example, M3C, mathematical modeling at Mercy College. That camp was really vigorous and a little stressful, but it made calculus, so it made it a real breeze, and that really helped me. And Ladies of Distinction was also a really great club. National Honor Society, we've been giving a lot of opportunities, and my counselor, she's really helped us a lot in the National Honor Society. And NUNZA, I wouldn't have found out about it if I wasn't in the Mount Vernon City School District. Yeah.
Very good. Well, ladies, thank you so much for being a part of the Supt Scoop edition, this special edition today. And I look forward to hearing great things from you in the future and what your college experiences are like. And don't wait till you graduate college to come back. Come back and talk to us about what that college experience has been like and how Mount Vernon has helped to prepare you for that. So good luck to you, and I'll see you at your graduation.
Thank you.
See you later.
Okay, so we'll be right back with our valedictorian and salutatorian from Nellie H. Thornton High School, and then we're going to have a special conversation at the end of this segment. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Joining me now are our two top students from Thornton High School, Demario Lee Budai and Juan Franco. Welcome to the show, gentlemen, again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So these two young men are no stranger to Supt Scoop. They've been here as ambassadors for My Brother's Keeper. We've had other conversations, and they are also representatives on the Superintendent Student Advisory Council. So Demario, why don't you begin by talking to us about your plans for after graduation? What do you plan to do? Where are you going, and why?
After graduation, I plan on going to Manhattan College in Riverdale, New York. I plan on studying mechanical engineering, mainly because I just have such a strong love for STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and I just love the hands-on aspects of it. And there's so much you can do with mechanical engineering, like cameras, engines, elevators. It does so much, and it helps a lot of people in the world, and I just enjoy that fact.
Very good. What about you, Juan? Where are you going and why?
I'll be going to Binghamton University in Binghamton, New York, and I'll be doing double major of electrical engineering and computer science. Electrical engineering because my family's been everyone's an engineer, and I just knew that I would probably be in the engineering field. Electrical mostly because no one else is one, and also I happen to enjoy technology. Computer science comes from my older brother because he told me that you always want to have a second plan. So I believe that computer science can help me a lot in that field.
Very good. Demario, how do you think Mount Vernon has prepared you for your college experience and your career readiness?
Oh, man. If there's anything I know, I'm going to be ready for college. Extremely ready. I think I'm one of the luckiest students in the district. Juan and I, actually, because it's almost as if we have two counselors at our school, because both counselors for the high school students, they actually both help us through everything. Seeing as how we're always there, oh, we have to work on this scholarship, or we're planning on doing this, or we have to go here. We're always hearing some information that's helpful from both of them, and they're always preparing us for everything. I always feel like, okay, you know what? I'm ready for college. I know everything I need to know. Financial problems, not even anything, because I just know what I need to do. I know what I'm going to be planning ahead for college.
And what about you, Juan?
I believe that the school has definitely prepared me, especially my teachers, because I have the options to have taken APs for the last 3 years, and luckily I've been taking them and learning new experiences, because definitely it's a different feeling than a normal class. So I'd say I feel like I'm prepared in that sense. But also, as Demario said, our guidance counselor has always been on top of things, reminding us different things to do. And also some students from last year will come back and have spoken on their experiences. So yeah, definitely I feel like the school has prepared me a lot for it.
I think that's a great segue into the notion of giving back. I think that's really important. I mentioned in an earlier segment on the show today about this great sense of pride that people have in Mount Vernon, particularly as graduates, and the commitment to always come back and give in your community, and you talked about that. What are your plans to come back to Mount Vernon and talk about your experiences?
As a student that will actually be commuting, since Manhattan College is so close by from where I live, I will still be in the community all the time while going to class, and being a part of My Brother's Keeper, which is already an organization that gives back to young men of color, and also being currently the president of National Honor Society, I have high plans on do my best to give back to the community, because if there's one thing I learned from Mount Vernon, the people here, they care. The teachers, the people that you see on the streets, when they say hi, good morning, they care about you. They care about they care about your well-being. They care about their community, and that just inspires me so much to always come back here, give back. Even work at the hospital, volunteer, do anything I can just to help anyone out. People that look like me, people that are younger, people older. Just giving back to this community, because obviously that's one of the strong core fundamentals in here.
Very good. What about you, Juan?
So in my case, I will obviously be going to live over there, but I will be visiting time for like vacations and stuff as such. And I will most likely be visiting the school to see how it's going, how it's progressing, how the students are doing, how it's changed. And also I would probably speak on like my experience, since instead of like how Demario will be commuting, my experience will be completely different, because I'll be going somewhere I've never been to, I have no family there, and you just kind of have to get used to that. You have to start knowing how to live on your own. So I'd like to speak on that to the students.
I think that's a great frame of reference as well. What courses have you taken, Juan, that you think have prepared you the most, and what opportunities exist for us to improve our offerings for our high schoolers?
Definitely my AP courses, I would say, especially this year, my calculus course. It has probably been one of my hardest classes, as literally it's like a new type of math. I'd also say my biology class, because all my science classes already have been like difficult, but I'd say this time was like more on hands, more paperwork, and it was just like a heavier load of work to do overall. Definitely I would say to give more AP courses and to let other students outside of like the predetermined students to try to take them, at least to get an experience in it, because I've noticed that a lot of students, they don't get the chance to at least see what it's like to be in an AP course. So now they have like an idea, oh, it's like only the smart kids. But realistically speaking, AP course is a college class. Everyone at least is trying to get to college. They should at least get an experience and a feel for it beforehand.
That's a very good perspective. What about you, Demario?
Very similar to Juan, since I'm going into engineering, I believe that my AP calculus class and AP biology class helped a lot. The science and the mathematics, they were of course very rigorous, but they got me prepared for what I'm going to be seeing or expecting in college. And one thing I also thought was very helpful was my English literature and composition course, seeing as how in college you're going to be doing a lot of writing and you're going to have to speak to a lot of people. So it was just nice to have a better comprehension on the English language, on certain literature, and actually being prepared how to do actual college term papers. And piggybacking off what Juan said, offering more IP courses, because I will definitely admit there are a lot of courses that we have right now. Like we were able to take 5 AP courses this year, which is amazing. But I feel like there are so many courses, so many more courses and different classes or subjects that kids can take. Seeing as how not everyone is always going to be dictated towards math and science, there are different things that people are interested in.
Okay. One of the things that I hope we are successful in doing is developing well-rounded students. So you talked about your AP courses, and the earlier segment, Victoria and Messiah talked about the rigor that was offered. So I think we've got that pretty well covered. What about your sense of civic responsibility? Has the district helped you develop a sense of responsibility for being actively involved in the democratic process, for example, recognizing the importance of good citizenship, and just helping to build well-rounded individuals who can function and contribute to society? Demario, what's your take on that?
As I previously stated, a lot of the people in the community, they care about each other. So one thing I've noticed is that a lot of my teachers and other staff in the school, they're always telling me, try to be a good person, try to give back. Like in U.S. history or AP government, my teacher would always tell us so much about how important voting is, how important it is to give back to your community or be a part of the community. Seeing as how in a democratic republic, it's important that you're not just, you may be an individual in America because we have those rights, but you're still a part of a larger thing, and you need to also realize that you're not only looking out for yourself. Whatever you do may impact some others, so you need to also be aware of that.
Okay, Juan, what has your experience been?
So definitely, like Demario said, our history teachers have definitely been an influence on us. They always tell us their point of view on the topic, but also they still speak on behalf of the other side. And definitely overall, my teachers, I think I've been blessed to have great teachers. Their character and the way that they bring themselves up has affected me, because I've noticed how, okay, this is how you should be, this is how an adult should act, this is how they should interact with people, the way that things should be going. And because of that, I think I have an idea of like what type of person I want to be as I grow up.
That's very good to hear. I talked earlier about sometimes Mount Vernon, which again I think is changing, gets a bad rap. Have you found that to be the case in your interaction with students outside of Mount Vernon, about their perception about Mount Vernon, and has that changed over the last few years?
As someone that actually grew up in the Bronx, recently moving into Mount Vernon when I was in 4th grade, I immediately noticed something different. This is nothing like the Bronx or the other boroughs. Even though Mount Vernon is considered like the 6th borough, I realized there's a whole different energy, there's a different morality here. Like I always say, people here care. I always wonder, like, why do people say Mount Vernon's bad, or why it's so awful? When I actually live up the block from Target, by Sanford Boulevard to Garden Avenue, and you see that giant mural with all those athletes and stars and other celebrities that came from this place. So Mount Vernon is a place of greatness. Money earned in Mount Vernon. There's a lot of potential here, a lot of talent, a lot of greatness here. So I'm still puzzled why people always have such a negative idea about Mount Vernon. Because some of the people that always say that, they're some of the talent, they're some of the actual genuine article that's here. Kids like me and Juan, we're coming out of here as scholars. The previous Valedictorian and Salutatorian that you were just speaking to, another scholars, great role models for a lot of females. Like, we have such greatness here, you yourself, and it's just amazing that we're so blessed to have people like that in Mount Vernon. So I'm still, confused why people would think that, any type of negative idea about Mount Vernon, to be honest.
I appreciate that perspective. Juan, what about you?
So I've been living in Mount Vernon since I was 4 to 5, and overall being here, I've never felt like there was a real issue to say, yeah, of course you hear certain bad things have occurred in certain areas, but overall I feel like it's a good city, because anytime I go to, like, let's say the Bronx visit, I'd say I'd fear myself more there than here, definitely. And overall the people, I'd say as well, definitely, as Demario said, that they're definitely a community. You can see it and how they interact, even with our own brother Muhammad. I see him literally walking down the streets, the halls, says hello to everyone. Everyone says hello back, how you doing? So yeah, I'd say it's like a community right there. I don't see an actual issue in Mount Vernon.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned brother Muhammad. He's going to be on our next segment. So I have to tell you, you gentlemen have been extremely positive ambassadors for our district, and I've probably interacted with you quite considerably during the course of the year because of your engagement with MBK, and I can't think of two more appropriate quality gentlemen to be on this panel today, and I am looking forward to hearing what you do beyond your graduation, and looking forward to what you bring back to our community, and looking to see you someday be installed on the Hall of Fame here in Mount Vernon for your great contribution. So thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for being a part of our district and what you have done to bring such positive recognition to Mount Vernon.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, my pleasure. And we'll be right back with a special conversation with Brother Arthur Muhammad. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Joining me now is Brother Arthur Muhammad, who is known throughout the community. He is an advocate, an activist, has a phenomenal reputation here in our community, and an exemplary rapport with our students, and has an awesome pulse on what's happening in and around our community. Our district was faced with a very controversial issue surrounding the most recent development in the case of the Central Park Five. The woman who served as the district attorney at the time is a Mount Vernon graduate, Linda Fairstein, and had a picture that was actually inducted in the Hall of Fame here in Mount Vernon. Our district was faced with the task of making a decision about whether or not that picture, that plaque, should be removed from the Hall of Fame as a result of the recent documentary on 2020 and Netflix produced and directed by award-winning producer Ava DuVernay. So Brother Muhammad is here to have a conversation with me on his views about that plaque and whether or not the plaque should be removed. And I'll, of course, share with you my views as the superintendent of schools and ultimately what decision was made and how I arrived at that decision. So Brother Muhammad, being in the community, of the community, what's your view on the plaque and whether or not that plaque should be removed and why?
Well, I think that the district showed extraordinary wisdom by taking the plaque down. The uproar was tremendous, particularly after not only knowing that Miss Fairstein was from Mount Vernon, but after knowing or seeing the Netflix documentary. Very, very difficult to watch.
Yes.
And so as people reviewed the facts of the case, and in addition to the Netflix, there are tons of interviews that the Central Park Five had done, and all of the fingers point to the cover-up. And so for Linda Fairstein to still be in the Mount Vernon Hall of Fame is a black eye to Mount Vernon. So I think that we arrived to the correct conclusion by taking her down.
One of the challenges that I had, frankly, with ultimately making a decision about what to do with that was really trying to sort out how much of that documentary was based on fact, the Netflix film in particular, how much of it was based on fact and how much of it may have been sensationalized and dramatized for the purpose of entertainment, the entertainment value on television. As you arrive at your views on that, how did you weigh and measure how much of it was based on an emotional reaction and how much of it was based on a factual interpretation?
Great question. Oftentimes when people do films and stories based on people's lives, there's also some executive privilege or some producer license just to make the story have fluff or make sense. But I have a particular vantage point, probably better than most. I knew and know Yusef Salam, who was one of the Central Park Five prior to the actual incident, and I certainly could speak of a young man's character. I used to be a merchant in Harlem, and he used to come by my stand every day and talk and purchase goods, and we would study together. So this is as a 15-year-old young man. And so when I read the newspaper and saw his name, I knew that there was no way that he could be involved. A man that's so young at a young age, who committed himself to his religion of Islam, and so insightful and thoughtful and respectful. No way that he could do that. So I did not know the other young men, but I knew that he could not be a part of it. One of the things that I had the advantage of being in Harlem, there were people like Reverend Al Sharpton, Brother Alambe Brath, and others who were in the nationalist and conscious community that was keeping the conscious community via, if you remember, WLIB. There used to be a lot of black talk show radio, and they kept us informed about every step of the trial. So I came from an informed vantage point, and not only did I know him personally, I used to get updates from the courts and the records and the suppressions and all of the hearings and everything. So I was already convinced that these young men were innocent.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate for a moment. And again, ultimately, the plaque has been removed, and I'll share later with how I arrived at that decision. But do you think that perhaps the honor that she earned when the plaque was initially installed is an honor that was earned based on that experience at that time, and this act that came after the fact. There are some that believe that she had earned that honor when she was in good grace, and the plaque should remain, that she should not be, that honor should not be removed since it was earned prior to that. What are your views on that?
No question did she earn the honor. Obviously, the honor that she earned was prior to the Central Park 5 incident, so I don't deny that. But I believe that to see the cover-up, the injustice, to see the criminal be highlighted in the criminal justice system with her hands being responsible, I think that that honor should be revocable. And I don't believe that what she did should be erased in terms of what she did to earn it, but for us to honor her, that is again a black eye in our community, and the community spoke vigorously, very loud. And in fact, I'm glad that the district arrived to the conclusion swiftly, because I would anticipate a outcry that would make us look like we were reacting to the outcry opposed to reacting to the facts of the case.
I appreciate that perspective. Do you think you would have the same position if Linda was an African American?
Indeed, indeed, because what happens is that racism and injustice is not necessarily a black or white thing. It's a position thing. It's a moral thing. And so if a black person is on the wrong side of justice, on the wrong side of right, we cannot give them a pass because they're black or because they're Latino or because they're Native American. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And right doesn't rule, might doesn't rule, right rules. So we want to be on the side of right.
Very good. I appreciate that. One of the challenges that I had with ultimately arriving at this decision as a superintendent is, as I walked down the hall and reviewed some of the figures, the prominent figures that are in the Hall of Fame, I had to wonder how many other people on there that if we reviewed their history today, we would have a different view.
I think that we live in a society now that is a fact-check society. As you know, in New York City, there are many plaques that were dedicated to people who were slave owners. There are plaques of people who did horrific things. Obviously, the whole controversy with the Confederate flag, the whole controversy in Charlottesville, Virginia with the statue. I think that we live in a time now where we're checking everything because we want to be right, and we want to right the historical wrongs that have been done to Native Americans, that have been done to black Americans. And even now we are approaching the 100-year anniversary of the woman's right to vote. So I think that if America is to be great, I think that we need to look at it from the lens of freedom, justice, and equality. Even though it's hundreds of years after, I think that we have an opportunity to rewrite or at least revisit history and try to set it aright and give it its fair view.
Well, I'm going to tell you, when this controversy broke out last week, and I was getting calls and emails about take the plaque down, take the plaque down, I did not want to have an emotional reaction, quite frankly, because I felt that that would have been an injustice, not just to Linda Fairstein, but an injustice to the moral imperative to be responsible at how we make our decisions so that our children would understand, our students would understand how important it is to be fair and equitable and not necessarily have an emotional reaction and make decisions based on that. So I wanted to take the weekend to look at the Netflix story, to review the 2020, and go back and read some of the editorials that had been written on this. And ultimately, what was the deciding factor to me was what message would that send to our young men of color who walk past that hall every day and be reminded of how our judicial system sometimes does not fare very well for men and boys of color. And I did not want to be responsible for sending them those subliminal messages that we would honor someone who had such a key role in denying these five young men the rights that they should have been afforded.
And you know, it's really bigger than the 5 young men. The 5 young men were a high profile, but there are hundreds, dare I say thousands, dare I say tens of thousands of unreported, unknown cases of people that did not get justice. I remember as a person in my young 20s walking in the Bronx, New York to the train station ready to come home, me being pulled over by the cops saying that I fit a certain profile. And as I'm trying to defend myself to the police to let them know that, hey, I'm not your guy, shut up, get against the wall. So I know what it's like to be profiled. I know what it's like being a advocate in our community, of people coming to me at least once a week, sharing with me some of the problems that they're having in the police, in the court system, New York State, New Jersey. So it's really rough. So I think that their case, the blessing of the case, if we can find any redeeming value in what they went through, I think that just having it highlighted how they persevered, and also, you know, if you look at the rape kits that were untested, now that they're being tested, people are being exonerated, coming home after 15, 17, 22 years of being in jail unjustly. It shines a light on the fact that racism and injustice is still existing in this country. That's the elephant in the room. But again, it has to be an honest conversation that's unemotional, that's followed by facts, because we know that text without context is pretext. And that's why I can appreciate how you arrived to your conclusion of your decision, trying to get all the facts. See, we won't heal as a nation, we won't heal as a community until we uncover the truth, and that those who are offended get the proper reparation or the proper apology so that they can restore their name and their reputation. And though you can't erase the pain of the past, at least you can move on with your head held high, knowing that I told the truth.
I think you raise a very, very valid point. First of all, the film was very hard to watch, very challenging. In fact, there were points where I wanted to fast forward and realized that I couldn't make an informed decision without looking at every detail of that. And we don't know what was edited out of that, by the way.
Right.
We don't know how much of that was, how much of that didn't make the film that ultimately created the final version of that. But I was challenged because I had a personal view that I carried with me from the onset, but I couldn't make a decision as a superintendent based on my personal views. I had to have an informed view that would guide my decision. And so the easiest thing would have been to take the plaque down last week when I first started getting the calls, and this would have gone away. But I wanted it to be unceremonial and be a decision that was based on fact.
I would love for us, Dr. Hamilton, to use this as a discussion point with our students. Obviously, we're at the end of the year.
Right.
However, this Netflix film is causing conversation amongst young people. And I love when young people can talk beyond basketball, beyond music, beyond sports, and have some deep, piercing conversations. So I look forward, hopefully, through the MBK to establish some sort of conversation around this. I want young people to understand social justice. I want young people to understand implicit bias. I want young people to be able to articulate their thoughts in a way where they can mean what they say and say what they mean.
I appreciate your perspective, and I appreciate you being on the show. I knew you were the right person to have this conversation with because of your intimate involvement. One, with firsthand knowledge about the case. Secondly, knowing what's out there on the streets, keeping your ear to the ground.
Yes,
so
sir.
I appreciate your point of view. At the end of the day, the plaque has been removed. I think that the injustice, removing the plaque doesn't change the injustice. Removing the plaque doesn't change history. But what it does do is it says to our students that we will not celebrate someone that we know willingly and skillfully denied folks the rights that they deserve. It has nothing to do with them being African American or with them being men of color. but the fact that they had rights that were manipulated and destroyed, and that cost them years and years of their lives by being incarcerated, unjustly incarcerated. But that concludes our time today on Supt Scoop, and this is our final episode for this school year. I thank you so much for tuning in. We will have some special episodes over the summer that will air about different things that are going on in our district, construction, the redistricting plan, and things that will impact you as part of our viewing audience. But thank you so much for an exceptional school year. Thank you for being such consistent followers and viewers of Supt Scoop. And I sign off now as the proud superintendent of the Mount Vernon City School District, and we'll see you next time. Have a safe and blessed summer. Thank you.